mind, but I'm going to record this so that people can kind of either key back on it if they need assistance or, again, use it as a resource. So I'm here to help you guys today. Any questions that you guys have as we go through this, I'd like you to put them into the chat at different little points throughout the training session tonight. I'll kind of open it up for questions as well, because again, I want to help you guys master your craft as best as possible. Sound fair?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yeah, sounds
All
fair.
right, y'all. So I think the best place to start is kind of a little bit regarding qualifying. And the first time that we really talk about qualifying is going to be in HP Pro. If you guys have your scripts up, you know, it's going to be roughly in that like B2 area of the script where we start to talk about qualifying. So let's see. Yeah, I would definitely recommend open up eApp so that we can kind of go through it as we go through it. I'd also recommend maybe even opening up HP Pro because there's a few things in HP Pro that I'm going to show you guys today as well. Now, how many of you have ran a presentation already? Raise your hand if you've ran a presentation. Yeah, if you raise your virtual hand, that'd be even better. Okay. So Andrew Maroki, my guys, right in business. Aaron Lukasik is okay. Very good, guys. Tony Kakani, Ted. Obviously, you guys have ran a presentation or two. Okay, guys, thank you. You can either lower your hands or just let them lower in themselves. But okay. So what we're going to start here, guys, with is qualifying. You know, the first time we talk about qualifying is going to be here in HP Pro as we get into that kind of like B2 section of the script. Okay. Understand when it comes to qualifying, there's kind of two different metrics. There's what's known as the super combo for someone under the age of 60. And once someone is age 60 or above, they have a different set of qualification metrics because they're able to qualify for a senior graded program. Their qualifying is a heck of a lot easier. So when it comes down to it, we mostly work with seniors, but we do definitely need to know the underwriting standards for people under 60 as well. So let's just kind of go through here this little first bit. When it comes to these qualification questions with a senior, it's very cut and dry, very simple, right? We need to find out if they use tobacco or marijuana. That's important when it comes to rates. So, you know, I'm pretty sure that's straightforward for everyone when it comes down to it, just yes or no. In this case, let's say no. The next kind of important note for qualification for a senior especially is going to be regarding heart attacks or strokes, okay? Oftentimes when I'm working with rookie agents, I get a lot of questions. Well, this person had a stent put in 6 months ago, or this person had a pacemaker put in last year, or this person had a knee replacement, this, that, or the third. When it comes down to qualifying for a senior, it's important to understand the questions on the application are really the only ones that are important. There's only a few exceptions, but specifically regarding like this question, the last 2 years, you know, any heart attack or stroke. Notice it doesn't say anything about a heart murmur. It doesn't say anything about a stent or a pacemaker. We're inquiring specifically if they've been hospitalized or received treatment for either a heart attack or a stroke in the last 2 years. Pretty cut and dry again, okay? The other thing is with seniors is again regarding internal cancers. Things like skin cancer, again, that's not something that's going to disqualify a senior for submitting an application. It's these internal cancers, such as like breast, colon, or pancreatic. If it's something different than that, then by all means, again, they're likely still going to qualify, okay? The final question in HP Pro is just regarding terminal illnesses. Has a doctor told them that they're going to die in the next 2 years or year? Do they currently have Alzheimer's or do they use an oxygen tank? This is another like rookie agent concern is that sometimes when we're asking a senior, you know, do you use any oxygen there at home? They might tell you that, yes, I use an oxygen tank to sleep. What they're likely referring to is that they have sleep apnea and they use some sort of like CPAP or some sort of assisted breathing device to sleep. That's not what this question is asking. So again, if you guys run into a senior that uses like a CPAP or any sort of sleep apnea device, that's okay. They're insurable. This is more so asking, you know, if they use an oxygen tank to like walk around the house or go out in public, okay? Does that make sense so far, guys?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Now, one little trick that I want to teach you guys here is that we have some really cool technology and resources right at our fingertips that if we ever do have questions regarding the qualifying phase of this stuff, very easy to just click right here on the far left for the needs analysis screen. When you click it again, it's going to give you two different options right here that you guys might not have seen in the past. One is your underwriting manual. The other is the medical questions. We're going to go to the medical questions first. What this is going to do, it's going to pull up the actual eApp qualifying questions, whether it's a super combo against someone under the age of 60, or if they're over the age of 60, the senior questions, okay? Now, again, these are the actual questions that are on the actual application. So as I'm going through any of this stuff with a senior or super combo or anything, if I have any doubts about if they'll qualify, I can always pull up the actual medical questions and ask these questions to them. So it's very helpful to have these and know where they're at. So again, a helpful trick is to click here, the needs analysis button. You click it one more time and it pops up these two things. Let's see. All right, perfect. Haley, you raised your hand. I see. What's up?
If you do click that and you do answer those medical questions, here in HP Pro, it won't transfer,
Correct.
correct?
Yeah. For right now, eventually in the long term, the goal is to build HP Pro and eApp together. They're working on it, but every single state has different like insurance laws, as you guys know, with your reciprocal licensing and non-resident licensing. So every state, has different standards that our technology team has to adhere to. So for right now, it doesn't necessarily communicate eApp and HP Pro. In the future, yes, but for right now, completely separate. They don't communicate with each other. Okay. So, as you do these questions, you're going to have to do them again in the eApp unless, you ask them here and then you remember all the answers and you just kind of confirm it as you fill out your eApp. But good question, Haley. Um, that being said here, guys, the other kind of big trick that I want you guys to know when it comes to qualifying is here the underwriting manual. This is what's called the field manual, where it's a really helpful resource, especially as you're getting new and introduced into the business, because you guys probably don't know a lot about different health issues unless you've experienced it yourselves or with your family. So here, built into HP Pro, there's a few different flash sheets, such as the build chart. This is something that's helpful when it comes to qualifying, where it's going to give you what are known as different tables of risk, essentially, where it's going to give you an estimation in terms of like height and weight and what rating they might be charted at. This is important for qualifying as well, because if I'm sitting down with a gentleman or a lady, and I notice that they might be a little heavier set, it doesn't hurt to ask them kind of at this time, where they might be in terms of this table chart. So asking them, about how tall are you and about how much do you weigh, just ballpark, as part of your qualifying questions. Again, that way you're able to see. If someone is ever above the T8, it's very likely that they're going to get trialed. In fact, it's not very likely, it is going to be mandatory that if someone is over the T8 rating, you're going to need to trial their application, okay? No matter their other issues. That being said, again, having this as a resource is very helpful. This is the build chart. It goes all the way through giving you estimations that, okay, if someone is, 6 foot, they should likely be roughly between 144 and 232 pounds. If I'm sitting down with someone that's 6 foot and 350, I see that that's going to be all the way here to that T12 ranking. And again, I can submit a trial application, but again, they're going to get rated fairly heavily based off of their weight. So again, just kind of keep an eye on this, guys. And if you ever do notice someone that might be a little heavier set, maybe a little stocky, it doesn't hurt to kind of ask them as you're in this section here qualifying, about the qualification questions. A few people actually had some concerns and brought up to me, like, I don't know what to share and when to share it. So just to kind of show you guys what I do real quick, I never show the client these questions right here. Me personally, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the letter pulled up still, where I'm going to have the letter pulled up. I'm going to be on page 2 like we are in B1, and I'm going to leave it stuck basically right here. And I'm going to pause my screen share, and I'm going to move forward to the qualifying question saying, hey, they had me ask you a few quick questions to see if we move forward. And that's where I'm going to ask all of the qualifying questions that are on that sheet that I need to. But again, if at this time I notice the gentleman or lady is a little stocky, it doesn't hurt again to kind of ask some additional questions that might not be here on this sheet that I have pulled up right here. Okay, guys? Does that make sense so far?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So regarding this underwriting manual, again, it is a fantastic resource, not only for the build chart, but also this flash sheet. This is going to be what's known as an auto decline sheet, okay? So how you read this is that we have different products at American Income Life, whether it's life, L, A is accident, H is health, and D is disability. These are all the different types of benefits American Income Life can provide. If there's an X here, it's saying that because of the parameters of that condition, they're not going to qualify for that type of insurance. So as an example here, if we see cancer and it says internal cancer, some sort of like breast, colon, pancreatic, uterine, any type of cancer where they've received treatment in the last 2 years, whether they're young or old, no matter what, if they've received treatment in the last 2 years, they don't qualify for life insurance, they don't qualify for our health insurance, and they don't qualify for what would be our disability coverage either, okay? It does look like the client would likely qualify for an accidental benefit though. So again, we can give them accidental coverages because you see that there's not an X right here. I'm seeing a couple more questions pop up in the chat here or in the hands. So I'm going to kind of, again, this is all for you guys. So we're going to kind of take it piece by piece. Miss Jennifer, I know you're driving, so let's get to your question here first, ma'am. What's up? Okay, you're driving, so we'll move on. Mr. Ted, you've written a bunch of applications. How can I help you here?
I have a question about, so when you pull this up, would you recommend that we pause our sharing
Yes,
as we're
exactly.
that-
That's a great point.
I
So
wanted everybody else to hear that if that's the case.
yeah, so same thing, like with all my qualifications, they're not seeing any of this stuff. They're still stuck with me personally on the letter until I get to that statement where after we qualify and we say, I'm not the final say, but they are going to let me show you a few different benefit options. Now, Ted, it's important to understand the VSO has a sit down with you on an individual basis. So once I say they have a sit down with you on an individual basis, that's when I'm going to resume my share, and they won't see this part of it. They're only going to see the bottom part of this once this is filled out, okay? That's me personally. If your upline suggests something different, by all means, that's fine. I'm just going to base it off of how I do things, if that's fair enough, okay? Miss Jennifer, your question, ma'am.
Yes. So in the instance where they have cancer and they can still qualify for the accidental. So can you just write the accidental?
That is a great question. That's something that we'll talk about here in a second as well, Jen. Something that I feel I do really well in this business is like if one person doesn't qualify and the other does, we're going to talk about that directly, as well as kind of what to do with people when neither party qualifies and how to kind of talk them off the ledge, so to speak, or respectfully and gracefully move on throughout. So that's a really good question, Jennifer. And I'm going to table it or put it in the parking lot for a second, but we'll get to it, okay?
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, so again, guys, the main things here is, again, if you're ever not sure of these things, your screen share should ideally still be paused. But you can also, if you are on this screen right here, just pause your share right here. And if, as Ted brought up, they bring up some sort of condition that I'm not familiar with, I can pull up this underwriting field manual. And let's say that, they have a felony and they tell me about that. Well, I can type in felony and it's going to pull up, okay, what's known as the arrest history. I would have paused my share. I'm not going to let them see this. But me personally, as the agent, I'm able to look this over and see if I'm able to move forward with the insurance, where this underwriting manual will give me a breakdown of whatever I type in on the top. It'll tell me a little bit about, okay, well, what's a felony? What's a misdemeanor? What's that type of cancer, this, that, or the third? And then it'll build up the underwriting field manual where it'll give me information that I might need regarding if they're applying for life insurance. That's what this like vertical column's for. These next two columns are regarding like accident and health qualification. And finally, if they're trying to qualify for disability. In most instances, you guys see here, it's going to say see life. That's just saying, hey, look at this life portion right here to the left. And it's going to let you know in this situation, say if they do have a felony or misdemeanor, that, like, I think Alex asked this yesterday, right, in that Slack channel. This is something that you guys have right at your fingertips, where it lets you know, okay, if someone has had a felony, you probably need to do an arrest as well as an alcohol and drug questionnaire. Even if they don't use alcohol, even if they don't use drugs, you still have to fill it out because at one point they were arrested. It's going to give you additional instances, saying that if they've had their license suspended or whatever it be, it might take longer for us to essentially either go through their underwriting or approve them. If they've only had a single offense or an episode, it's not as big of a deal. It's going to let you know in terms of underwriting action that, okay, again, this is something Alex could have looked at yesterday. It shows that, applicants with a felony conviction, they have to be at least 5 years removed from parole before we can submit them standard. If it's something before 5 years, we can trial the application. And let us know, same thing down here, that, you know, if we're applying for life insurance within a year of a misdemeanor, again, it's something that might either need to be trialed or, you know, not enrolled in at all. If it's after a year for a misdemeanor, it looks like it's good to go. So all of this is right at your fingertips. Again, same thing if it's like something else that you're not familiar with, like they have some sort of herniated disc, right? You might hear someone say they have a hernia. Well, you can click on this. It's going to let you know exactly what like a herniated disc is. It's going to give an explanation of that because you might not be familiar with it. And it's going to give you the same thing. It's going to say, okay, well, in this case, the herniated disc, it doesn't have any issue or little effect on mortality. And it looks like in this case, most cases are approved standard, but it does look like, you know, if someone's had a hernia, we can't offer them or provide them what's known as the waiver of premium, right? So when I was getting introduced into the business, this is something that my upline instructed me to do, and others have as well, where every night we would have homework to basically read a couple of pages of this document, the underwriting field manual. It's already put into HP Pro where you can kind of search it. In the chat right now, guys, you're going to see I gave you a PDF example of the entire booklet. So again, if you guys do want to kind of take ownership of your career, master your craft, you know, get familiar with these different conditions, because our actual job is to be a field underwriter. So it's very important that, you know, we have some general knowledge of these different little things. Like you might not know what COPD is. Guess what? It's right here, though. It's going to let you know exactly what COPD is. And I think someone asked earlier today, you know, if someone has COPD and they're a non-senior, what does it look like? It's going to let you know right here exactly what you need to know about it, okay? Does that make sense, guys?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
again, any conditions that you're not familiar with qualifying or underwriting, I would recommend every day look at one or two of these and kind of just get a little more familiar with them, okay? It's only going to benefit you in the long run. It even goes so far as to explain like different types of cancer, what type of questionnaires you might need to fill out, what's the typical waiting period, what the typical rating might be. Because just like someone with a lot of DUIs or a lot of speeding tickets, they can still get car insurance. It just costs them a bit more. Same principle here. Just because someone might be considered like a trial condition or something that might make it where we're not 100% sure if they'll qualify, or maybe they're, you know, hefty like me, whatever it be, you know, I can still get life insurance. It's just because of my weight, I'm gonna have to pay a higher table rating. Same principle here with life insurance. Okay, guys, so get familiar with this. It's very helpful and it's a great resource for you to have, where if you guys ever have questions or concerns, by all means, of course, reach out to your upline. But what I would recommend is, you know, try to find the answer first yourself and then utilize those around you to find the answers, okay? So again, already built into HP Pro, if you just click the needs analysis button again, you have two options, either the underwriting manuals or the medical questions, okay? I'm gonna kind of open it up here real quick. And we can kind of take any questions that you guys have regarding qualifying that we might find out right here before we kind of continue to move on. So I'm going to stop my share and just kind of open it up. So if anybody has any questions about qualifying, you can either put it in the chat or raise your virtual hand and we'll go through it. So any questions about qualifying? We all know it. Okay. Bingo. All right, guys. We'll keep moving and grooving here then. So when it comes to qualifying, again, the underwriting manual is a great resource, as well as the medical questions. There's another way that we're able to find those, where if we click benefit summary again, same thing, it's going to give you a few different options to go ahead and click on things like the underwriting manual and whatnot, okay? So whenever you guys click on this, you'll see icons that look similar to this, either underwriting manual or medical questions. If you click benefit summary a second time, once it's already clicked, you'll see numerous options. Two of which are these two as well, okay? So there's a couple of different ways to get to it. All right, so no questions about qualifying, guys?
I have a quick question.
Yeah, what's up, Blessing?
I know that I guess Jolly did an app, and it was a younger person. She was like only 43, but she had like 9 TIAs over back in 2011, 2012, but hasn't had anything since then. I mean, is that going to disqualify somebody because they had so many in the past, but they're okay now? Or I mean,
So this is an example where even I'm unfamiliar. A TIA, what's that?
it's a mini stroke.
Okay. So what we can do here is click on right up here where it says stroke.
Mhm.
And okay, so let's just click on this and it's going to give us an example of what is a stroke. It's going to let us know if we're not unfamiliar with it. It's going to let us know that in any situation where someone's had a stroke, American Income Life is going to do a little bit of additional underwriting. They're going to require what's known as an APS or attending physician signature. Basically, they're asking for a signed medical record. From there, you know, there's multiple factors that might either disqualify her or help her lean towards qualification blessing, whether it's, you know, was it due to diabetes or blood pressure? Is she overweight? You know, if they haven't had a stroke in a while, you know, it probably won't be an issue, whether they're young or old. But, you know, it lets you know that, you know, there might be a rating applied, as well as, you know, after someone's had a stroke, it looks like they have at least a 1 year waiting period. In most cases, I would suggest 2 years or more.
Okay.
But you know, all that being said, that's a really good question. And kind of just to circle back, another way we can find out about this is that flash sheet, where this is going to give us examples. A common one that you guys might run into, not super common, but you know, let's circle down here to where it says like heart, blood, and circulatory disorders. This is going to give us some information where, say, for an example, someone has had a heart attack and or some sort of diagnosis or condition with their heart within either the last 6 months, or if they've had a heart attack and they're under the age of 40. Like they had, say I'm 40 now, but I had a heart attack when I was 35. Unfortunately, I'm not going to qualify for life insurance because I had a heart attack before the age of 40. Thank God I have it. Same thing actually here, right here. Here is that TIA question, right?
Right.
So it looks like any combination of, you know, some sort of artery disease or some sort of vascular disease like that TIA, if they have a combination of those two things, then they probably would not qualify. But again, if they've just had that TIA, it's not an issue as long as it's been past a certain, you know, waiting period, essentially. Okay.
Got it.
Same thing if they've been diagnosed with heart failure, maybe they had a defibrillator put in, same thing, right? Or if they've had multiple heart attacks and still smoke, it gives you some examples that, again, those are situations that you might run into where they wouldn't qualify. So I would recommend, again, getting familiar with these things. It's very helpful. Other common ones that you guys might sometimes run into is if you run into a younger couple that has children under the age of 18. If that child is under the age of 8 and they have certain issues like autism, sometimes even ADHD, American Income might not provide them insurances. So again, important to kind of get familiar with some of this stuff. That way, you know, you're not risking a situation where you try to insure someone and they get hit with a decline. That can have a very negative impact on your business in general. So again, avoiding those things is very important. Yeah, Ted, what's up?
Just a question for you to just for the group. Does everybody know what LAHD stands for?
LAHE. Where do you
Up
see that?
on the scroll up a little so you could see it. For each one of those, like each one of those.
Right here. Yeah. So yeah, I explained that. So again,
I
L
missed,
stands
sorry,
for,
if you
no, you're good.
explained it,
You're
I
good,
missed
sir.
it,
That was,
sorry.
it's good to repeat things. So again, L, if there's an X under these, any ones that say L, that stands for life. So if there's an X, that means it's an auto decline for life insurance. If there's an A and there's an X, that means it's an auto decline for an accidental policy. H stands for health, like our A71 product. If there's an X here, that means it's an auto decline for the health product. We don't typically sell disability products too much, but it is an option. Same thing, the D stands for disability. If there's an X under there, that means it's an auto decline for the disability insurance. Great question, Ted, and good to have us follow up on it. Molly, I see a question from you, and then Jennifer again. We'll go with you first. Molly, what's up?
So how would you tell the client that they're not eligible for the
What I'd
life?
say is that typically they're gonna know, like they're gonna know that because of their condition, they don't qualify for it. Because guys, unfortunately, when it comes down to it, there's realistically only 3 times people really even consider life insurance. Does anyone know when those 3 times are? If you've seen a presentation or two of mine, you might have heard me say it. The first time is when we lose a loved one, when someone near us dies and we're wondering how the family is going to come together to pay for that funeral. That's the first time that, we would consider those things for ourselves. The second time people often think about, getting life insurance is when they get a serious diagnosis from a doctor where they're unsure of, what might even be available to them. The third time is kind of as we bring it up and talk to them about it. So again, having those in your back pocket in terms of like when someone tells you want to think about it, Adrian, I wish I could give you all day to think about it. Unfortunately, we are on a servicing period, and realistically, Adrian, God bless you, man, but there's only 3 times people really even think about this sort of stuff. Because if you're thinking about it, again, more power to you. But at the end of the day, most of the time people are going to consider this sort of stuff, Adrian, when they have a loved one close to them pass away and they're wondering how the family is going to come together to pay for the services. The second time is, God forbid, when you go to see a doctor and he lets you know that you've been diagnosed with some sort of terminal illness or a serious diagnosis, and now you're wondering, what options are even available to you at that time, but it might be too late. And the third time, Adrian, is here when, we're talking about it. It's a good way to kind of, again, persuade them or convince them to set up a benefit at that time. So that's a good question, Molly. And regarding like what to do with them, I'm going to touch on that here in just a second. I have a really good method of kind of talking them out, like talking them down or making them feel in a better situation. So same thing, that'll kind of be addressed when I go over Jennifer's last question regarding like if one person qualifies or kind of how to handle it there. Okay, Molly, so give me just a second. That'll be in the parking lot. Jennifer, you had another question?
I did. Excuse me. So I had a member the other day that, I mean, she was 24 years old, and the VA technically qualified her as 100% disabled. Now, I physically saw her walking through her house, like she had some bulging discs, some dislocated discs, you know, some arthritis, that type of stuff. At what point, like, so this underwriting flash sheet is certainly helpful, but at what point do I determine whether or not this is going to go to trial?
Yeah, so that's a good question. Again, this sheet is going to tell you in a lot of different ways because there's a lot of different types of arthritis. There's a lot of different types of all these things. So again, you can type in arthritis here and it's going to let you know, okay, is it osteoarthritis or rheumatoid arthritis? There's different metrics for each. So let's take a look at like osteoarthritis. It looks like in this case, it's going to say complete the questionnaire. It's going to require that attending physician signature. It's going to base off their degree of impairment. So again, if they're only a little impaired, it's probably not going to be a big issue. But if they're impaired enough that they're considered like disabled, it might be a larger issue. And we're going to talk about disability here in just a second. Jennifer, you brought up a really good point regarding that. I'm going to touch on it here in just a sec. But again, it kind of depends on the severity of it. What I would say is if they've been hospitalized due to it in the last 6 months or have had a surgery in the last 6 months, that's going to be one of the biggest metrics that, at that point, you're probably going to need to trial it. If it's been more than 6 months or a year since they've had like a serious condition enough to get hospitalized or surgery for it, at that point, it's probably more of a standard submit.
Okay.
So 6 months is usually a pretty good benchmark, Jen, regarding like if they've been hospitalized within that window or surgeries within that window. You're probably going to want to lean towards a trial. And if it's been more than 6 months, again, something that's probably okay to submit standard. All right.
Okay.
But again, there's complicating factors where if you see a bunch of stuff, it's something that you might want to trial to kind of save your quality. Thankfully, our applications are always scrubbed basically 3 times after you submit an application. Typically, your upline, your senior leader, they're going to review the applications that you submit just to make sure, again, we're honoring our fiduciary responsibilities and roles as an underwriter. After that, we have a whole quality team here within our organization that is going to review and verify the application. They're then going to be submitted to AO to do another verification or scrub. And then finally, AIL's underwriting team is going to do a full underwriting breakdown with them. So again, you have a few layers and kind of checks and balances there, Jen, between like your upline, the support staffs, and then the company itself. But again, just kind of work with your upline and have them determine what might be a trial versus standard, and they'll help continue to assist you there. So you opened
Yeah.
up a couple of different ones regarding like the arthritis, but also same thing, if they've had like a back injury that's like a bulging disc or whatever,
Yeah.
we can click on, whether it's spinal or herniated disc. And again, it's going to tell us again, kind of what the metrics that we need to look for are. And then again, in some severe cases, it can be a decline. Whether, they take medications like pain medication as well, it can typically be a decline for it. And often with like arthritis or especially like back issues, we can't provide what's known as the waiver of premium. But okay, good question, Jen. Again, utilizing these underwriting materials and just kind of using your best judgment is going to be the best in determining if someone should be trialed or not. The biggest benchmark, depending on their age, is again kind of that 6-month window, where if they've been hospitalized or had surgery within 6 months, it's probably a trial. Anything after that is probably a standard submit. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Now she brought up a really, really, really good point right now, right? When she said that 24-year-old was considered disabled. Know about the two different types of disability, right? There's what's known as VA, service-connected disability. That's something only available to veterans, where basically it's something relating to their service record, where like an example, you guys have heard me say that my father and grandfather were paratroopers. Paratroopers jump out of planes. It does a heck of a lot of damage on their knees typically, where they get diagnosed with arthritis and whatnot, or other knee and joint issues. Now, as a veteran kind of separates from service, they have different medical reviews with their doctors before and after, that the doctor will essentially do a checkup and determine, okay, this issue related back to your service. It's a service-connected condition. That's something that a veteran can get, where they'll get a certain disability ranking. You might hear someone say that I'm 10% disabled, or I'm 100% disabled, I'm 80% disabled. That's a key word. If they ever say a percentage, like I'm 10% disabled, that's something that shows you or lets you know that they're service connected, they're VA disabled, okay? Now, someone that's VA disabled, they can still qualify for our insurances as long as they qualify, or as long as they like pass all the other metrics, they're good to go. There's also what's known as Social Security disability. That's something that everyone can get access to. It's a publicly federal funded benefit through the Social Security Administration, SSDI, where essentially that's me being sick enough for whatever reason. I submit my application to the government, and they make me go through some additional medical visits and whatnot. And a doctor basically lets the government know that I'm seriously enough injured or depressed or whatever the conditions are, that I'm considered what's known as medically uninsurable. To be disabled through SSDI, you have to be considered what's known as medically uninsurable. Now, if someone is on Social Security disability, they're medically uninsurable. If someone's medically uninsurable, they're not going to pass an underwriting for our company. So again, understand there's two types of disability, guys: Social Security and service connected. Service connected is good, whether they're over or under 60, as long as they still qualify off of the questions you ask, they're good to go. But if someone is Social Security disabled, they will not qualify, whether over or under 60, especially under 60. You should not even submit an application for someone under 60 that's Social Security disabled. If they're over 60 and Social Security disabled, I probably am still not going to submit an application for that person, because again, they're considered medically uninsurable. They won't qualify for insurances. Okay. Does that make sense regarding SSDI and service connected? What was the buzzword that I said that you could tell without even asking if someone's service connected or SSDI?
The percentage that they're
So
receiving.
if you ever hear a percentage, that lets you know that they're service connected disabled. You can likely submit an application for them, okay? Now, on that note, as we submit an application, you guys have probably seen questionnaires. We're going to see them in a little bit. When it asks, is this person disabled on the application for eApp? That's asking about SSDI. You're not going to consider someone service connected disabled. You're not going to mark disabled on those things, okay? We'll talk about that as we get into eApp, okay? All right, so that kind of completes what I wanted to talk about regarding qualifying here. What I'd like to do next is kind of go through eApp. And actually before we do that, hang on.
Before you move on,
Yep.
Mike, I'm sorry.
No, you're
Before you
good.
move on to eApp, I had a client today where I wrote a policy for them and they asked me about cancer insurance.
Mhm.
we do provide it. It's in the eApp.
Mhm.
I did not see it anywhere on HP Pro. Did I
It's
miss
there
it?
though. Let's talk about it, okay? So let's just go through this real quick. And I'm also going to answer that question regarding Jennifer and Molly, like if someone doesn't qualify. So let's say in this situation that I'm sitting down with a senior, husband and wife. The husband tells me that unfortunately he had a heart attack last year, okay? Everything else is no, but the husband had a heart attack, all right? So I'm going to hit continue here, and I'm going to quickly fill out a needs analysis so that we can kind of show you how I would build a plan. But at this time, when I find out that the husband has had a heart attack, I'm going to just continue to move on. I'm not going to, again, I'm just going to use that same line that, Ted, I'm not the final say on if you'll qualify or not, but they are going to let me show you a few different benefit options for you both. Give me just a sec. Should flip this out ahead of time. Okay. But I'm not going to like say, well, Ted, unfortunately at this time, you're not going to qualify for the any benefit, but Mary, you will. I'm not going to do that here. Because again, I'm putting myself in a negative situation at that time. I'm going to just continue to move on, and I'm going to go through the questions saying, I'm not the final say on if you'll qualify, but they are going to let me show you a few different benefit options here, Ted. Now, that being said, it's important to understand they have a sit down with you on an individual basis just because they realize what's right for you is going to be different than what's right for another veteran. Every veteran's in a different situation. That's why they have a sit down with you individually. Does that make sense? Perfect. I'm going to go through my needs analysis like I normally would. I'm going to go through all this, that, and the third. Okay, perfect. So we hit continue. Now it's going to let us get into the plan builder. All right. Let's also say that we got their income here and that he's making 4,000 and she's only making 800. That's a pretty common situation. Okay. Okay. So we get to the plan builder here, right? And Ted, to answer your question directly, you see here where it says additional products. You can click right here, and this is going to show you all of the different products that we can provide someone, whether it's the CNM product or the C2000. I don't know why it's not letting me click it here. It might be because of their age or the state that I selected that we don't provide it. Either way, that's where you could find out about those products. And if you ever have any questions about like what is a CNM versus C2000, one of the best ways to find out about it is again here through HP Pro. I'm not sure why it's not letting me show it. Let me see if it'll let me show it here because I set up another one. Yeah, perfect. Okay. So same thing. Here's like the pre-plan option where I wanted to show you guys kind of what it would look like when we take a plan and put it into HP Pro. We'll talk, or into eApp. We'll talk about that in a second. But again, here, sir, you can click on like the CNM or C2000 and it will show you the different cancer policies that we provide. Okay. Okay. So getting into if one of the spouses qualifies, let's say that the husband had that heart attack and the wife didn't. Again, what I'm going to do here is, Jen, I'm just going to uncheck the life insurance for him. I'm still going to set up a benefit for her to where, they both qualify for the A71. Just because he had a heart attack last year means that he can't get the life insurance, but he can still get the A71 product that we provide. So how I'm going to go through that is, just like this, where, I'm going to ask, just like I would in C1, have you ever had a plan or participate in planning a funeral? Oh my gosh, that's tragic. Well, that's why they set up what's called your freedom of choice certificate. Now, Mary, for you, what they've recommended is a $7,500 coverage. And then I'm going to say, okay, for both of you, they've set up the hospital benefit because we never know how we're going to pass away. This, that, and the third. I'm going to go through all these benefits because, again, she still qualifies for this. He doesn't. That's fine. I'm going to show it to them like this. And I'm going to make sure that they understand that, the $7,500 coverage is in any cause of death for her. Ted, unfortunately, at this time right now, you're not going to qualify for your freedom of choice. But, you can always add that on later after, we hit whatever metric. Where if he had a heart attack last year, Ted, we at least need to get our foot in the door now with a piece of coverage. And then a year from now, once you're 2 years removed from your heart attack, we can go ahead and get you qualified for your freedom of choice as well. It's a lot better to basically talk to them about that here versus earlier. Does that make sense? Because I want to set it up where I'm still able to shoot my shot, essentially. I want to get to the numbers. And if I talk to him about him not qualifying too early, I'm probably not going to get to the numbers. Does that kind of make sense, Jen, how I would tackle that? Perfect. I'm going to assume that that's a yes. Molly, same thing. Does that kind of answer your question a little bit regarding like if the husband or the husband doesn't qualify, but the wife does, or vice versa?
Yes,
Okay. Blessing, what's
thank
up?
you.
You're muted or your mic's off. I can't hear you, sir. I think your microphone's off or muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Sorry about that. Basically, he doesn't qualify for the immediate benefits, but he does qualify for the accident and the hospital benefits.
Yep. So
Okay, wow.
again, the questions for the A71 are different than the health benefit. So same thing. I'm going to click benefit summary here real quick so you guys can see it. And then when I click it again, it's going to pull up those options that I told you earlier, where you can either click underwriting manual or medical questions. When you guys look at the senior app, especially, you're going to see that there's a section that says Section A. These qualifying questions only pertain to the life insurance. So all of these qualifying questions that you see here only pertain to the life insurance. Section B is for health product, the A71. So when it comes for a senior qualifying for the health product, these are the only two questions that matter to qualify for the A71. That person that had cancer, currently has cancer or whatever, they're still going to qualify for the senior A71 because the only things that matter are alcohol abuse or treatment in the last 5 years, getting a DUI in the last 5 years, and are they currently SSDI disabled due to arthritis or some sort of injury to their back, knees, or joints. Again, they can be VA disabled. That's fine. But again, if it's SSDI disabled, then unfortunately he's not going to qualify for it. Okay, bless him. But again, these Section B questions that you guys see here, these are the only ones that matter for the senior A71. Okay. And then Section C, to kind of get that for you, Ted, if they don't qualify for everything else, they might qualify for the C program. This is relating to cancer insurances. This is the only question that matters when it comes to qualifying for a cancer insurance for a senior. Make sense, guys? Okay.
Yep.
Same thing here when I get to the super combo. You're going to see Section A. That's going to pertain to life insurance. Section B is again going to focus on life and health for a senior, or for a super combo rather. Okay. All right. So, and then other than that, just to kind of answer that other final question, if I find out that when I go through my qualifying here that both of them don't qualify, I always want to, again, ALP stands for a lot of things. I think it stands for always leave positive. I want to try to make them feel good as I'm finishing out the call. Like every call, good, bad, or ugly, we should always leave the client feeling positive about the interaction. If we have them feeling negative about the interaction, we're opening ourselves up likely to complaints. But anyway, long story short, to make them feel positive about it, Molly, what I would likely say is if I find out both of them don't qualify, or maybe it's just one of them and they don't qualify, I'm going to try to still shoot my shot to say, Karen, unfortunately at this time, it looks like we can't move forward with the service organization benefit. Now, it's only because, you're currently diagnosed with that cancer. Once you beat that battle, and I know you will, ma'am, 2 years after that, I want you to give me a call and I can enroll you into all your benefits at that time. Okay. But for right now, it looks like we're not able to get qualified. Now, Karen, what they have done for you though, you had mentioned earlier that you have those grandkids. I don't know about you, but my daughter, my niece, my nephew, they don't remember what I got them for Christmas a year ago, let alone 5 years ago. But 2 years ago, when I set up their Head Start program here through the Veteran Service Organization, that's something that's going to set them up and their family up for the rest of their lives. I'm sure you remember like that Gerber program, right? Back in the day. Those Gerber programs, grandparents loved them, but they were expensive. They're like 20, sometimes even $40 a month. And the kicker that the service organization found is that a lot of those programs only last until your grandchild is 18. So what the VSO had done is set up a permanent program, what they call the Head Start, where it sets up a very affordable coverage for your grandchild, as little as $5 a month. The most it is 20. And that's something where it's the best kind of coverage your child can get and something that'll let them remember you long after you're gone, because it's something that's set up to be permanent, guaranteed. The price never changes. The coverage never expires. God forbid, no parent should ever have to bury their child, but it's something that, will pay out no matter how they pass away as well. Not only that, Karen, but with the Head Start program, it has a guaranteed insurability option. That was really important when I set that up for my nieces, because unfortunately I lost my mom to breast cancer. That's something that unfortunately does run in the family. So, setting up this benefit for my nieces now made it where they have a guaranteed insurability option. So not only will their coverage never change or expire, but because I had the foresight to set this up for them, throughout their life, they can always qualify for more coverages and they can never be denied. Pausing my like role player example, you guys see how that can kind of spin a lot of value where, Karen might be concerned that she doesn't qualify, and I'm able to like leave positive by saying, there are benefits that are available to the kids. Not only that, but obviously, your condition might be something that runs in the family. Like in my situation, having this set up not only protects them now, but will protect them always, because with that guaranteed insurability option, they can always get more coverages. Okay. I might have thrown too much sauce at you guys there, so I'm going to pause and maybe open it up for a question or two. But that's one great way that if you're working with a senior and they don't qualify, you can get a check in every home, whether it's qualifying for them or someone that they know that can qualify, whether it's the grandkids or otherwise. So again, always be closing. Know your ABCs. Know that you can always get a check. There's a check in every home. You just have to find a way to dig it out. Ted, you had a question from before I went over that Head Start stuff. What's up?
It's okay. The disability, you said there's two types. It's VA and Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
However, there's a third type, and that's what I always equated that to. There's short and long-term disability through work.
That's something, again, kind of separate where you're not going to run into that as much, especially because we're working with seniors. Again, if someone is either short or long-term disabled through their employer or otherwise, that's something where they probably have a serious enough condition that they were considered medically uninsurable, essentially, or some sort of serious condition. Where likely if it's something short or long-term disabled, you know, I might have to, do some additional questioning where if I find out that this person has some form of short-term disability, that might be an instance or a perfect instance where I can, click on the needs analysis again, Ted, and I can go through these questions with them to see if it's something that's gonna like disqualify for them. So does that make sense? Where like that's a perfect example where you can utilize HP Pro to pull up these eApp questions and ask these directly to see if
Sure,
it's
but
something
with
that's
that,
worthwhile moving forward.
right, but my question to that then, they wouldn't qualify for the A71 then. Am I right?
It depends, because yeah, what you're noting is that they might be short-term disabled due to something different. I'm assuming if they're short-term disability through work, though, it's probably due to some sort of injury to their back, knees, or joints. But if it's not due to that, it's due to something else, then by all means, they might still qualify. But again, if they're short-term or long-term disabled and it's due to one of those things, again, they're not going to qualify for that. But if it's
Okay.
due to something else, they might. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, great point, Ted. Thank you. So opening it back up to kind of what I was talking about, guys, regarding like pitching a head start essentially in situations where someone doesn't qualify. Does anyone have any questions on that part? Okay, it's a really good benefit in that there's a lot that you can build it up towards, whether it's, saying it's a guaranteed affordable coverage that their family will remember them long after they're gone. Veterans like that idea. Veterans hate being a burden and they like being remembered. So if you can kind of use that to your advantage, in your targeted language as you're building this program and benefits up to say it, removes the burden, or in this case of the Head Start, it leaves a legacy. That's something that'll give you brownie points or boost up your sales success. Okay. Let's say Karen doesn't have any grandkids though, right? It's just her, unfortunately, and she doesn't qualify. Well, me personally, guys, I understand that if I prioritize service over sales, the sales will come. So I like to consider myself a master of the market, where if I find out Karen doesn't qualify, I have a couple of different options. The first thing I'm going to do is unfortunately say, Karen, unfortunately at this time you don't qualify, but for you, what they've set up, and I always like to keep this in my back pocket, where if someone doesn't qualify, I always want to leave positive, and I'm going to let them know what they qualify for is the health card, and I'll use this as like a cool down. So if I find out, Molly, that, Jim and Mary don't qualify and they don't have kids or grandkids for me to pitch the Head Start, I'm going to talk them down by saying, hey, what they've set up for you is this. The final thing that I can do, because again, I want to prioritize service over sales, is I'm okay if someone doesn't qualify for the life insurance, or say in that situation where the husband didn't qualify, but the wife did. I can say, well, Mary, for you, what they've set up is the freedom of choice. But Jim, for you, since you're a veteran, you have access to what's called VA Life. Now, this is a new program that you can qualify for directly through VA. where even if you're, considered uninsurable, as long as you're considered some form of a disabled veteran, this is something that you can't be denied for. So again, that's what I would do in a situation where I find out, the husband doesn't qualify, but the wife does, and the husband's the veteran, the wife's the civilian. I'm going to try to say that, for you, Mary, what they've set up is the freedom of choice, but Jim, for you, what they've set up and what you can apply for later with this is, your VA life. So again, this is a great link for you guys to be able to utilize, benefits.va.gov. I would recommend, using this. It'll help you master the market and work better with veterans where, the link I sent you gives you direct information on like the burial benefits, but it's a link to benefits.va.gov. So if you guys want to find out about the different types of life insurance that are available to a veteran, whether it's their SGLI or VGLI, the SDVI or VEA life, it's all right here. Now, again, I'm not gonna, if this person's insurable, I'm not gonna go over the VA life insurance with them here. I'm only gonna use this as a way to give them good service if they are uninsurable and they can't qualify for my program, okay? But same thing, if you guys want to find out about like how the survivor or widow pension works, it's all right here. This is a really, really, really great resource for you guys to master the market with, okay? I want to get into eApp. Does anyone have any other questions about what we talked about regarding if someone qualifies, doesn't qualify, what to do, this, that, or the third? Okay. All right, guys, appreciate you. So what I want to talk about now is the nitty gritty of eApp. Whenever I think of doing eApp, I always want to kind of relate it back to, a lot of times when people have anxiety about what to do after someone says yes, it's because, again, they're uncertain. So I always like to kind of match things up where I'm going to pair whatever I'm doing in eApp into an HP Pro scenario. So I set up two different examples here. I think what we'll do is the senior application. But, here's an example of me building a program for a senior where, he's 65, she's 64. It's a triple family A71, a $10,000 death benefit. Same thing if we have time and, we're willing to. I set up what would be like a super combo option as well with a younger couple. So which I think most of us are working with seniors. So let's start with the senior one. And if we want to go to the super combo one, we can. Okay, guys? So eApp, right? We get signed in. The best way to figure out eApp is to play with it. So what I'm going to do here to get started is, click and start presentation. Let's say that, we're insuring Michael Jordan here. And Mike is born in January 1st, call it, what's that, 59, give or take. That'll put us in the ballpark.
Yeah, 61 will put you there too, whatever you do.
There we go, let's do 61. All right, either way, what I'm gonna do is set it up for whatever state. And then guys, a quick little tip as well. If I click next, it's going to make me play a bunch of videos. So again, if you guys are ever on this screen, what you should do is fill out this basic info and then just click this little X. And then you're able to go to File, Application Package Wizard, and it's going to be right here. That's a really helpful tip. If you press next on that previous screen, it's going to make you watch a bunch of videos. So I would recommend, again, not going that route. That being said, when we get to this screen, we just click Applications, we click Add. That's going to give us the option to either do a super combo or senior life combo. Most of the time we work with seniors, so that's what I want to focus on first. In some situations though, guys, while I'm talking about it, sometimes we're going to sit down with someone that's like 61, but maybe his wife or he is only 58 and like the other is the senior. You don't need to fill out like completely separate applications, but you do need to fill out separate apps, and that I can click on application here and I can click super combo. And now I can fill out, his information on the senior combo and hers on the super, the super, if that makes sense. So the person that's over 60, I'm going to do the senior. The person under 60, I'm going to do the super. I'm not going to use that example right now, but just know that that's how you would do that in that situation. Okay, cool. So filling out a senior app, again, best way to learn how to do this is just to play with it. The affiliation, this is always going to be like, what was the organization that they were sponsored through? So if you ever fill out an actual hard card where it's like that handwritten request, if they're part of a VFW, go ahead and put right here, VFW veteran. What I usually do right here is I like to fill out their branch of service. So if I find out that Ted's an Army veteran, I'm going to go ahead and just put Army vet here. If Ted, for whatever reason, is uninsurable and I'm just insuring the spouse, I'm going to put, vet spouse, and I'm going to put, that information there. Let's say that we're filling it out for Michael Jordan and Michael is an Army veteran. These check boxes here, these are fairly important in terms of your business, especially when it comes to the referral one. I'm going to kind of highlight these real quick and just address them, but UN stands for union. A lot of us aren't working the union market, but if you are, you're going to click UN. Some of us work the credit union market. That's what CU stands for. ASSOC, that stands for association. So if you ever are working those veteran hard cards where it says like Montana Post or Veterans of Montana, whatever, that's going to be an association if you'd want to click this. If you're ever working those PA vet leads, that's going to be something right here through Principal Advantage. That's what this stands for, is the PRIV. The other ones that you would need is sometimes POS, REF is a referral, CHSF, that stands for Child Safety Kit. So if you guys are working the veteran market, the main ones that you guys are going to work through are either ASSOC, VPRIV, or REF, okay? Let's say that it's a PA vet and he's an Army veteran, so I'm going to start it out right there. The next thing is, their basic information. So just kind of filling that in. We said it was 1961. A lot of this stuff you're going to have from the presentation with them and just talking to them. But, usually I'm going to ask them where they were from pretty early in the sit. If I remember, I'm not going to ask them here. I'm just going to fill it out. Like, Ted, you had mentioned when we sat down that, you're in Michigan, but you were born in Missouri, right? Perfect. Ted, just ballpark about how tall are you? Ted, do you mind if we role play a little bit here? Unmute for me. Ted,
Not at
just
all. Go
ballpark
ahead.
here, sir. About how tall are you?
I'm 5'9".
5'9". Okay, and you still haven't grown up? No, I'm just messing around. Just ballpark here, Ted. About how much do you weigh?
285.
Okay. All right. Now, I usually don't ask this question, but male, female, with this, that, or the third. I'm going to leave it blank for right now to show you guys something pretty common. And then Ted, you mentioned that you don't use any tobacco.
Right.
This is, guys, honestly, one of the most common mistakes a rookie agent makes, where if I
Yep.
don't select the sex, notice how when I scroll down right here, it's all blank. I'm sure a few of you already have like called your manager as you're filling out an app, like, God, Martin, eApp's broken. I don't know what to do. It's not letting me click any of the health questions. It's broken. This piece of crud program, it's broken. Usually this is the biggest mistake, guys. eApp needs to know 3 things to determine a rate for somebody. Their name needs to be put in, their date of birth, their gender, and if they use tobacco or not. So again, this is the most common mistake. If you ever have sex blank, you're going to notice it doesn't let you click anything. But as soon as I select a sex, now it lets me click it right there, as well as go through the application questions, okay? So again, that's the most common mistake is on eApp. Make sure that you have a name, date of birth, and a sex put in. That way you can go ahead and get the rate in, okay? I'm not gonna
Surprisingly, males cost more than females. That's why they really want you the sex in there.
Yeah, exactly. Males have a
shorter
lower life
lifespan.
expectancy where we die a little younger for whatever reason. We're a little crazier, this, that, and the third. So again, yeah, that's important is, male or female. And then NTU, if you guys see NTU right here, that stands for non-tobacco user. If this X is blocked out, that means that this person is a non-tobacco user. They do not use tobacco. If I uncheck it, that means that this person is a tobacco user, okay? The final thing that I want to talk on here real quick is regarding ownership of a policy. 99 times out of 100, it's going to be proposed insured A that will be the owner of the policy. Really, the only situation that it will not be proposed insured A is if I'm enrolling a child into a Head Start program. That's really the only time that you would go ahead and do a separate owner, where say if it was, the parent or grandparent, you would click other and then fill out that information. But 99.5 times out of 100, it's always going to be proposed insured A that you select here, okay? Before I keep moving here, does anyone have any questions on what we've talked about so far regarding eApp?
Nope.
Okay, we're gonna keep moving and grooving here. Pretty simple so far. Yes, Karen. You're muted, so I can't hear you just yet, ma'am. There you go.
Okay. If the person that's the proposed insured doesn't have a bank account and somebody else is going to let them use their bank account, would they be the owner of
That's
the
a good
policy?
question. So there's different terminology in insurance. There's an owner of a policy, and there's what's known as a payor of a policy, and there's also, you know, the insured. That being said, the payor can be anybody, but in situations where it's a separate payor, Karen, where they're paying for my policy, maybe it's my kids for whatever reason, because they'd rather pay for an insurance policy for me right now versus paying for my funeral when it comes time. My children can be the payor, but I'm still going to be the owner of the policy. So still in that like 99 times out of 100, I'm still going to be the owner of the policy as the insured, even though the payor is going to be my children. I'm just going to click validate real quick to show you, Karen. You're going to see typically when you fill out any sort of application, there's a form right here that says payor information. This is where, you know, I would put in my child's information if they're the payor, where if it's Mary Jordan, my daughter, that pays for it, I'm going to go ahead and list out all of her information there. Okay. That's a really good question, Karen. Again, the payor can be someone separate, but the owner of the policy is still going to be the insured of the policy. Okay. Make sense? Good question. Good question. Good question. Okay. So guys, I'm going to kind of treat this like an actual example with Ted here, where I'm just going to kind of fill out the application. So Ted, you know, we got Michael Jordan. We said 161 for you, born in Missouri. You said about 5'9". Now it says 6'9", but that's 69 inches. And we got you at about 285. Now I see on your benefit request card that you had the 1415 Maple Road. You said that you get mail there just fine, right?
Correct.
Okay, and that was there in Detroit, Michigan, and I don't know the Michigan area zip code, but we'll say that that's the zip code. I don't need to ask him that information. It's already on his benefit request card. I just need to verify that that's still correct. Now, Ted, earlier you had mentioned that you wanted your son, Dave, as your beneficiary, correct?
Correct.
Now, God forbid something happens to Dave before you or at the same time, you know, who would you like as your contingent beneficiary in case something happened like that?
My daughter Janice,
Janice, okay.
same last name.
Okay, perfect. Now, you mentioned that you're retired these days, so we'll go ahead and list that. Next thing I need from you here, Ted, is going to be your driver's license number, and I'm going to go ahead and get his driver's license number. You always want to make sure that you put in the correct state and then the driver's license. eApp is a dumb program, but it's also kind of smart. It's going to know the format for every license. There's a few states that this might be an issue that had recently changed like their driver's license format. Montana is one of them. So if you guys are ever working a Montana vet or a Montana lead and you try to put in their driver's license, you might get an error message saying that, hey, it's in the incorrect format. But watch when I click validate right here. You see how there's a lot of errors everywhere, but there's not an error on the driver's license. Let's switch it where I'm going to switch the format here. Now when I click validate, see how now it says, whoa, that's the wrong format. eApp knows that in Iowa, that the driver's license format is 3 letters, 2 numbers, or 3 numbers, 2 letters, 4 numbers. It's not going to know if the driver's license number is correct to that person, but it is going to know if it's in the right format. Before I keep moving, does all that make sense so far, what we talked about?
Yes.
Okay. Next thing is, you know, just putting in a phone number. Same thing. This is on the lead request card. So I'm usually not going to ask Ted, what's the phone number? I'm just going to say on the card, add your 505 number. Is that still correct? Okay. And I also have on your benefit request, you know, the tedabro@gmail.com. That's still good for you, right? You have access to it? Okay.
Correct.
Perfect. We're getting into some of these questions here in the middle, where, you know, it's going to ask if this is intended to replace something. I'm never going to ask this. I'm just going to iterate. Now, Ted, again, the program here, it's not in competition with anything that you have presently. Again, this is never intended to replace anything that you have. This section right here in the middle that you guys see, amount of insurance on each proposed, this is something that you're always going to leave blank because it's not asking how much insurance Ted has. It's asking regarding the amount being intended to replace. We're never replacing anything, so we're always going to leave that blank, okay? So where it says amount of insurance on each proposed, you're just going to leave it blank. because that's only relating if you're replacing a policy, and we never replace a policy. Okay, guys? U.S. citizenship, yes or no? You know, usually if they're born in Missouri at this point, you don't need to ask. But if you find out that they were born in Guatemala, by all means, asking them, you know, if they're a U.S. citizen is important. One other piece here is right here where it says automatic loan provision. Does anyone know what does anyone not know what the automatic premium loan provision is? Does anyone not know? It's okay if you don't know. I'm going to tell you anyway. Okay. So the automatic loan provision, whole life policies build what's called cash value. If for whatever reason my bank account closes or I miss a payment, if I have this selected as yes, this gives American Income the authorization to use that cash value to pay for the policy. It's a free benefit. It'll protect your retention. This is something that, again, you always want to select yes on, okay? So again, for these questions, you're always going to select no for intending to replace. You're always going to leave this part blank. Whether they're a U.S. citizen or not, you'll fill out yes or no. And then the automatic loan provision, you're always going to select yes. Okay. That being said here, we're getting into the actual policy of it. So let's say for Mike that we're setting up a $10,000 benefit. We're going to go ahead and set up the 10,000. We said that we're going to set up a triple A71. So we're going to go ahead and do that. That's all set. I just need to click individual. I don't need to click anything else. If I was setting up a cancer policy, it's right here. Me personally, I don't typically sell cancer policies, but it's something that's certainly available to us. When it comes to these questions right here, these are things that I don't usually ask them, but I am going to, you know, go through. Where, you know, I'm going to always click A71 if I'm selling an A71. If I'm not selling an A71, I can leave this section blank. But I was always trained to say no and no on these. So I'm going to train you guys to say no and no on these. Because if you say yes, it can sometimes like result in further underwriting or like questionnaires and things that need to get signed. So again, I usually say A71, no and no.
So Mike, this
Yep.
is where it got tricky for everybody this last week.
Mm-hmm.
So Mallory sold a policy, and when they went to verify it, the client was on Medicaid.
Mm-hmm.
So they declined the whole policy because of A71. If you're on Medicaid, you cannot have A71.
Okay.
So
I hadn't really had that as an issue with me. So again, if you do find out someone's on Medicaid, by all means, you can still give them the life insurance, maybe just
correct,
unselect
you just can't give them
A71.
the A71.
Yeah. So by all means,
That
if
way
they,
your policy doesn't get declined
mm-hmm.
if you do the right thing and say yes if they're on Medicaid. And that's on any, by the way, it's not just us, it's any state, any policy. It's a federal thing.
Yeah. So
So
okay.
that's why
Yeah.
I'm mentioning it.
Great point, Ted. So again, if someone's on Medicaid, by all means, again, you probably shouldn't provide them the A71 program. Again, it duplicates some stuff. So again, just don't give them the A71. You don't need it. But if you are selling it, again, A71, if they're not on Medicaid, perfect, no. And then again, the no. All right, guys. From here, guys, the next step, I'm not going to go through their social here, and I'm not going to get the banking info. Me personally, I'm going to wait on that until the very end. If your upline directs you differently, by all means, again, do what they say. But for me, I'm going to fill out all of this information with a client from the start to the bottom here. Everything that you guys have seen right here, this is what I'm going to fill out with the client. What I'm going to do next is going to page 2, and I'm going to go through the medical questions. It's important, again, that you ask these questions exactly as they're listed. So Ted, you and I are going to kind of role play some more, but you've never been rejected or denied coverage from American Income before, right?
No.
Okay. Now, Ted, have you used tobacco or any marijuana in the last 12 months?
No.
Okay. You haven't been advised that you have any terminal illnesses, correct?
Nope. No.
Okay. No like heart, lung, liver, or bone marrow transplants?
No.
Okay. You're not being treated or diagnosed with any like cirrhosis, Alzheimer's, or any dementia that you can remember, right?
Nope.
Okay, good. Now, no like diagnosis or treatment for like kidney failure, kidney dialysis?
Nope.
Okay. Have you been advised or treated for like AIDS or HIV?
No.
Okay. And you got all your digits and toes, right? No like amputations due to illness or disease?
I have all my digits and toes, no amputation.
Okay, that's good. Now, this is another important question that, again, understanding that this is illness or disease, right? Maybe Ted had some sort of accident where he lost a hand. That's not an illness and it's not a disease. So again, if it was an accident and they're missing a hand, they're still going to qualify. Now, if they have diabetes and lost a foot because of it, they're not going to qualify. That's different. That's due to an illness or a disease, okay? So again, understand that these questions are stated specifically for a reason. The next question is here, Ted, have you been treated or hospitalized for any sort of like heart attack, stroke, or any sort of cancer treatment in the last 2 years?
No,
Okay. And you're not currently bedridden, hospitalized, or in a nursing home, right?
nope,
You're not using an oxygen tank to carry around just the God's green air?
nope,
Okay. From there, now, you haven't been advised to reduce alcohol consumption or like gone to AA meetings, no DUIs in the last 5 years, right?
no,
Okay. And you're not currently disabled through Social Security for any sort of arthritis or injury to your back, knees, and joints, correct?
nope.
Okay, perfect. So we'll go ahead and get that submitted. Now they are going to need to do a medical background check here, Ted. Do you have a civilian doctor or do you just use doctors there at the VA?
I actually just go to the VA clinic
Okay.
and, yep, and it's in Des Moines, Iowa.
Okay, perfect. So what I'm going to do is on my phone, I'm just going to search VA Clinic Des Moines. And I'm going to hit search and it looks like, okay, so they're in Des Moines. It looks like they have the South facility there, or do you go to the Central clinic? They're off 30th Street.
The central clinic there.
Perfect. Okay. So all I need to do here is just type in VA clinic, and then I just need to put in the address that I'm seeing on Google with the 30th Street's street. That's in Des Moines, Iowa, and it is the 50310. Okay. And then Ted, just ballpark, it doesn't need to be exact. When was the last time you saw one of the doctors or nurses or had a physical there at the VA?
I went for a checkup just a couple of months ago.
Okay, so is that like November of last year, give or take?
Yeah, right around there.
Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that. I'm always gonna leave medical records ID blank. And then when I get down to this part, guys, city, you're always gonna list the city that they're physically present in. So if he lives in Des Moines, but he's in Cedar Rapids right now when I do the meeting, I'm gonna go ahead and type in right here, Cedar Rapids, okay? It's always whatever city the client is in, all right? It's also always based off of the state that someone's in. So say if Ted is from Michigan, he lives in Michigan, his address is in Michigan, but right now he's visiting his son in Iowa. What state would I fill out the application for, guys?
Iowa.
Iowa.
Exactly. It's always going to be based off of whatever state they're physically in. This is important for licensing purposes, but also understand you don't want to get fishy here because the DocuSign, it's all based off of like an IP address. So the company and anyone can verify that this person was in Cedar Rapids when they signed it versus they, are in Michigan or this, that, or the third. So again, be tight on this stuff and make sure you're always up to snuff. You're going to base your application on whatever state they're physically in. As the city will right here, you're going to put whatever city they're physically in at that time. This agent statement question, you're always going to select is not, because again, our program is never meant to replace, okay? That being said, last little bits is, I usually ask Ted here, they're going to do a couple of verification calls, Ted. Is it best that they give you a call before noon, before 6, or after 6?
I'm always available, so whatever you.
Okay, so any time of day. All right.
Yep.
Well, Ted, here comes the fun part. I just need to list any and all medications that you're prescribed to take. I don't need to know why you're taking it. I don't need to know how much you're taking. And I don't need any like supplements, baby aspirin, or anything like that. Go ahead and just list off the medications whenever you're ready.
Sure, I'm on Lipitor.
Okay, hey, I'm a little new to this, Ted, so I might need you to spell a couple of these for me. How do you spell that?
Lipitor.
Okay. What else you got?
I'm taking top roll. It's
Oh, goodness. How do you spell that one?
TOPROL.
Okay.
And those are the only 2 medications I'm on right now.
Okay, so nothing else? Hey, all right, so
Nope.
you're doing pretty good. If he was taking more, I would just continue to list more. If it's husband and wife, I'm going to go ahead and do A meds and then B meds. I was always trained that the easier you can make the underwriter's job, the better. The more digging they have to do to find out this stuff, the more digging they're going to have to do to find out this stuff, and more things can get pulled up. So again, I always want to be clear and concise on all of my applications. If I know that Ted is taking Lipitor and Toprol, but his wife isn't taking anything, I'm gonna again just say no meds at this time or no meds prescribed. Just to again make sure that the underwriter knows I did my job and I asked these questions. If I find out that she's taking a bunch, perfect. I'm gonna go ahead and list all of those, whatever they are. And again, if you don't know how to spell it, ask them. They might not know how to pronounce it. Have them spell it. With a senior specifically, again, guys, you only need the medication name. You don't need to know why they're taking it. You don't need to know how much they're taking. And I don't need to list any like supplements, baby aspirin, or anything like that, okay? Just the actual medications. Any questions on that stuff so far, guys?
I have a question for everybody else to hear. So let me ask you, say it happens a lot. You're licensed in South Carolina, but not North Carolina.
Uh-huh.
And the client, it even happened to me. So a client who you're writing for in South Carolina tells you, well, I'm not in South Carolina right now. I'm actually in North Carolina.
Uh-huh.
So do you need to be licensed in both those states in order to
You
write
only
that
need to be
policy?
licensed in the state that you're writing the application, and you're only going to write an application in the state that the client is physically present.
Gotcha.
So again,
So they don't, even if they don't live in that state, as long as they're present in that state, that's all that matters.
yep, and by all means, American Income is going to see that in this case, let's say it was North Carolina, right? They're
Right.
going to see that, the city here for your mailing address is in North Carolina. They're going to see that your driver's license is in North Carolina. But if I'm filling out a South Carolina application, again, they're going to be able to see when they see the DocuSign receipt where you're physically at. So
Right.
again, I'm in this situation where he might live in North Carolina, but he's in South Carolina. I'm going to fill out a South Carolina application, okay? A really great tip here as well, guys, in that all across the country, the typical cutoff age to qualify for insurance is 80 years old, where if someone is 80 and a half, they can qualify. There's a few exceptions, being Nebraska and Missouri, where if you're sitting down with someone in Missouri and they're 76 years old, they don't qualify for insurance. Same thing if they're in Nebraska. Now, say I build a really good relationship with Ted and he really wants this benefit, but it ends up that he doesn't qualify for it because he's 76 and he lives in Missouri. By all means, Ted can go north to Illinois and I can fill out an Illinois application and have him qualify for the insurance as a 76-year-old. But again, they have to be physically in Illinois for me to write that application ethically and legally. Okay.
What are the states that don't allow it if you're a smoker at a certain age? Do you know
Every
that?
state, every single state. That's not a state thing. That's an American Income Life thing. So that's a great question, Ted. If you ever run into someone that's a 76-year-old and they smoke tobacco, no matter what state they're in, they will not qualify for insurance. The
Thank you.
cutoff age for a smoker is 75.
Just want to
That
make
just
sure.
has to do with life expectancy. Again, that's not necessarily a national or federal rule. That's going to be an American Income Life rule, in that we don't provide rates for someone that's age 76 and a tobacco user. We just don't. Now, the
Gotcha.
cool thing about eApp is, again, it's going to kind of know those things. So let's say it's, 0101, like 1947, right? That's going to make you at that point. Yep, take a second. Tab's your best friend. Give it a sec. That's going to make you a 77-year-old, okay? Let's say here that I mark him here as a non-tobacco user, or a tobacco user rather. Let's see if it's probably going to really F it up because I've already selected coverages for you. But typically, it might actually let me here because I did it so late. Perfect.
Nope.
It's
No,
really
it went
thinking.
away.
Yeah, see, it's not letting me do it anymore. See how it's not letting me fill out anything right here? Because eApp knows that, okay, this guy's 77 and a tobacco user. It won't let me go through it, okay? So if that ever happens to you, again, it might be because of the age and tobacco status. So just kind of keep that in mind. If someone is ever age 76 and older, they will not qualify for life insurance if they still smoke tobacco, okay? All right, so we went through all of this. We filled out the medications. Where it says mail policy to, this is another thing that you're always going to select policyholder. You always want to mail it to the policyholder and not the agency. So just to kind of review here, guys, a few different things. You're always going to leave medical record ID blank. You're always going to leave this section here that says like amount of insurance on each proposed. You're always going to leave that blank. You're always going to select no for it not being intended to replace a policy. And you will always kind of do those other things. After I filled out all this, what I'm going to do now is utilize a trick that I learned from our $1 million producer, Nicola. And I'm going to say, you know, Ted, you know, they are going to do a medical background check to make sure we have the right Michael Jordan here. What's your full social? And then I'm going to get the social from them. But that's a really good way to kind of like easily ask them about the social. Hang on 1 second. Hey, Shayla, is it okay? I'm doing that workshop. Okay. Okay, guys. Sorry, Shayla.
Hey, Mike. What
Yes,
up? What
sir.
up?
What up, though?
I have something really cool too. That's the way that Nicola does it. I've had a lot of success. Like barely anybody's ever told me no.
Never gotten any pushback.
Maybe one or two, and it was like a weird situation. But I typically tell them so because I'll get the medications first, like you did. You know, like so just to make sure that obviously you are taking these medications and everything matches with the Medical Information Bureau. They just want to make sure that you are, that you are Michael Jordan and you are taking these medications. Go ahead with your social. I never ever get anything.
Ever. So yeah, just to match your medical records and make sure we have the right person, or like Artie said, to make sure we're matching medications to the right person, go ahead with your full social. Yep. Again, guys, one of the biggest tips in this business is confidence. Remember the first thing I said, that confidence is closing, closing is confidence. This is one of the most important parts, that you want to be very confident, because this is very personal information. This is one of the times that they might have a scam alert come up when you ask for their social, if you have any sort of fuzziness with it. So again, have the confidence to tell them what to do, and they will do it. So when I say, hey, Artie, go ahead with your full social, versus Artie, they need your social here on the application. What's your social? He's probably gonna be like, whoa, dude, I don't want to give that to you. But when I make it make sense, hey, go ahead with your full social so they can match your medical record and make sure we got the right person, you're not gonna get any pushback whatsoever, okay? Especially if you do it at the end of the
funny
app.
thing, Mike.
Yep.
When I was training Alex Plumai, he had his first sit and first sale, and he's about to ask him for the social. He literally said word for word, so go ahead and pop out with your social. Like pop out with your social. And he was like, pop out with a what? And I was like, I literally muted it. I'm like, what did you really say that? Like, are you okay, bro? Like, you've never heard me say that. Yeah. He's like, I don't know, bro. I don't know. And then I unmuted. Then I said it. I'm like, yeah. So just because for the medical information. Oh, okay, yeah, sure. It's 369. He gave it to me right away. The rest,
right? Yeah. So just use that line of go ahead with your social versus asking for it. Okay, guys. And this is one of the most key moments of having very high confidence and credibility. Is again, make it make sense. Utilize that for your advantage. What's up, Ted?
I'm going to tell you guys something, and I'm not trying to sound funny, but literally after you go through the presentation of HP Pro and you get into the application and they're seeing you fill out the application, guys, I ask for the social right after the name, date of birth. I just go through it, and I will tell you, I have never had one person not give me their social, and it's all because of the way I ask and confidence of asking it. So don't worry about when you're asking it, just when you ask for it, say, hey, what's your height? What's your weight? Okay, go ahead with your social. I never get a problem. Like it's common practice. I need this from everybody.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Confidence is key in this. There's a lot of different ways to do things. Some are right, some are a little less right. That way is perfectly fine. I know a lot of people that'll do the app and just do it like that. Well, they'll start at the top and they're just going to go down. The main thing that Ted said is that he shares his screen. As I fill out an eApp, guys, I'm always going to share my screen. So again, they see me fill this out. They know what I'm doing essentially. A little trick that I like to do as well, after I've kind of gotten everything except for the social and banking, is I like making a joke that Ted, my dad was a carpenter. He always taught me to measure twice and cut once. So I usually confirm all this info before I get the social, and actually I do it after I get the social, but I basically confirm all this before getting the banking info, so that I'm able to just make sure any errors, I get them out of the way now and I fix them now before I get it sent over. Because again, we always want to make sure we're doing these things correct. So again, I just verify everything saying, okay, Ted, I got Michael Jordan, the 41, born in Missouri. It says 6'9", but that's 69 inches. I know you're about 5'9", 285. Here's your address to confirm, your beneficiaries, the phone number, and the email. To confirm, we're going to go ahead and set up that $10,000 freedom of choice along with your hospital benefit at $300 a day. Now, Ted, again, all together, counting a $5 application fee, that's $226.87. I just want to verify one more time here, Ted. That's something that's financially affordable for you, right?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
Perfect.
Because that $226.87, that includes a $5 application fee. After the first month, it's only going to be the $221.87 like we talked about. The first draft is going to come out within the next few business days. After that, they let you pick the day of the month. So you can pick any time from the 11th to about the 25th, give or take. What day of the month would you prefer, Ted?
My social security comes in on the 3rd. I want it on the 3rd.
Okay, so let's see. When I do the 3rd here, Ted, it's going to get drawn out here within the next couple of days, and I can do the 3rd, but just keep in mind, you're going to get drafted again here on February 3rd, okay?
That's fine.
Okay, just want to verify. Now, what's the name of the bank? Okay, it's, Bank of America. When you opened the account, what city were you in? You were there in Des Moines, okay. Iowa, all right. Ted, go ahead with the 9-digit routing number.
072.
Hang on one sec. This is another thing where eApp is dumb, but it's smart. eApp is going to know kind of two things. One, the format for a driver's license. The second thing that eApp is going to know is the correct routing number for whatever bank that you list here.
Okay.
So if I list Bank of America, it's going to know that the routing number for that is 122-400-724. Just for example, I'm going to go ahead and put in 723. So 122, go ahead with it again. 122-400-723. Okay. What's your account number? It's not going to know what an account number is with that bank, if it's right or not. But again, it will know the routing. You're going to always select either checking or savings, asking them. I usually direct them. Okay, what's the routing number? Ted, go ahead with the account number for your checking account because I want them to use their checking ideally. From here, again, I'm going to click validate just to show you guys. Notice when I click validate, it says that there's an error right here for two things. One, the driver's license is in the wrong format for North Carolina because I switched it to it, but when I switch it to Iowa, watch, it'll fix it. And it knows that the Bank of America routing number I gave was wrong. So when I switch it to the 122-400-724, 122-400-724, now when I click validate, it's going to give me no errors. It's going to say that the driver's license is good, and it's going to say that the bank account is good. I kind of flew through some of that stuff, guys, but I think, again, senior apps are pretty straightforward and easy. We'll touch on super combos and questionnaires here in just a sec if people have questions on it. But filling out a senior app, does anyone have any questions about what we went through just now?
Does everyone know that they have to verify the banking information on the mobile app?
That is also very, very key. So guys, again, you have to do this 100% of your applications. What I would usually recommend is doing this first, where you're going to go to your Planet Altig. I usually have it bookmarked on my other tab or page, where all I need to do is just click the bookmark. But if you go to virtual sales, you're going to see an option here that says bank verification. I would bookmark this page. And again, put this information in right here before you put it into the eApp screen.
It's
Now,
also on the first page of your phone under your mobile
yeah,
app.
you have it on your mobile planet as well. It's all in the mobile planet tool. Yep.
Yep.
Either way works. Again, I'm probably not going to share this screen with the client. What I would probably do is I would pause my share right here on the eApp, and then I'm going to go into my verification tool with my screen share paused, and I'm going to fill it out here, but I wouldn't show the client this part. Okay. Good point, Ted. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, looks like we got a couple of quick questions. Miss Karen, we'll have you go first. Ladies first. You're muted.
The question I have is, like, I'm licensed in Michigan, and say a Michigan client is visiting relatives in Ohio when I contact them.
You need to wait to submit the application until they're back in Michigan state lines.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's where they're at. I have to be licensed where they're at.
What's done in the dark will always come to light, guys. I promise you, no deal is worth the deal. If that's another lesson that we can talk about tonight, again, no one policy is ever going to outweigh the millions of dollars of policies that I can roll in the future. Okay. Don't risk it. It's not worth it. So
Yep.
again, if they like the benefit enough today, Karen, next
Yep.
week when they're back in town in Michigan after visiting family, they're going to like the benefit just as much. And if they don't like the benefit just as much at that time, well, I just saved myself a chargeback.
Yep.
I'm really big on setting up benefits that, again, are something they understand that they need, something that they understand they want, but most importantly, is affordable. Because writing business is cool, but Artie will tell you, Nicola will tell you, residuals are way cooler. Dropping business on the board, sure, that's fine. But the cool kids, they get renewals and residual checks. We're in this for the long haul, guys. So again, the policy, it's not about today, it's about forever. It's about being it there when they need it. Okay. So
Yep.
again, Karen, there's nothing wrong with if they're in Ohio, you know, technically I probably wouldn't even really go over the benefit because I'm not licensed there. So legally and ethically, if they're in Ohio, I'm not, if I'm not, and I'm not licensed there, I'm not legally allowed to talk about insurance to people that are legally like present in Ohio. I would
Okay.
wait for them to get back to Michigan personally. Okay.
I just
Now, if I'm
wasn't aware.
licensed in Ohio, by all means, I can run the application through Ohio and have it all mailed to Michigan,
Yeah, I
But-
just wasn't aware that it was where they're at.
where
if
they're physically present. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Tony Kakani, what's up?
What's up, brother?
Yo, yo.
I just had a quick question. You briefly mentioned that we offer a disability policy. Did I hear you wrong?
Yeah, so the disability policies are not for seniors. I'm gonna be honest, I haven't really even sold a disability policy, but let's look at it. So here's a super combo app. As it loads up, you know, again, here's where we assign all the different coverages. Here's where you're going to find that hospital benefit or that disability coverage, the H34. It's going to be right here for you, sir.
What's
So
the
this is
commission
going
on
to be
that?
for people that are under 60. You can either set up the A71 where it says accidental INS policy, the two different types of cancer policies, whether it's the CNM or C2000, and then the H34 hospital indemnity policy. It's right here. Yep.
What's the
that make
commission on
sense?
that? Do you know?
It's probably not much. If you ever want to find out about like commissions, one of the best websites and resources is using arc.ailife.com. I could do a whole freaking workshop on this because there's a lot of information here. But if you ever go to agency and then scroll down, there's a section here where it says commission schedules. And it looks like here for our A&H policies, it'll let you know that, you know, the A71 is a 25% commission. The disability policy, it looks like, is also the cancer policies is this commission, so on and so forth. So
Gotcha.
this is a good resource for you, but that's another topic for another day.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Miss Molly, what's up?
So what do you tell the client when you pause the screen to verify the bank info?
Nothing. I just pause the screen share and verify the banking info. So, you know, what I can do here is just scroll down and have this, you know, be more or less blank where the account number will be blank. I don't know if it'll let me delete it.
They don't know they're paused.
Yeah, exactly. It's not going to say the client or the member is screen share paused. So,
Yeah.
you know, what I would do is I would just pause my screen share right here, and I'm going to pull up the bank verification tool on my other tab where, you know,
And then
here's
you
my
let them tell you what the bank info, you put it on that screen.
Exactly. So, Molly, you said that you had Bank of America. Go ahead and go with the full routing number. Okay. And then on my screen, again, my screen share is paused. You're still seeing eApp,
Mhm.
but on my screen, you know, I have it set up here already. Okay. Go ahead with your full routing number. Okay. Go ahead and with your account number. Okay. And then I know from looking at the eApp that they're paying, you know, call it $39.55, whatever. This is their name. It says not for testing, but screw it. We're gonna test it once.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
But again, I would just pause my screen share and I would go through all of this. I'm actually not gonna test it, but you get the idea that it's gonna.
And then when you go back, you ask them again to verify it.
So
Well,
after I
actually-
click verify, you can just copy and paste this in.
Oh.
So I can just hit paste and then hit paste. So I don't need to ask them again. I already have it there. And then whatever the account number is, same thing. I just need to go here where it says account number, Control C, and then here, just hit Control V, and it's going to paste it in for me.
And
Okay.
Molly, another thing, if you're doing it on your phone, you could just write it down on a piece of paper. They don't know you're doing that.
Yeah,
You're
again,
honest about it. It's not like you're gonna steal their information.
exactly.
It's
Just
not worth your
again,
license.
be
Yeah.
ethical, be smart. Again, no deal is worth the deal. You want to uphold like HIPAA standards and whatnot. So again, if you do write their account information, I would advise you to shred that.
Shred it
And I would
100%.
also advise you to not necessarily do it that way. I would more so lean towards, doing it my way of using the computer. That way you can quickly just like copy and paste it, and it's going to let you know on the bottom if it's an active account or not. Okay. Either way is right. But again, I would recommend that you uphold your fiduciary responsibility first and foremost. And just make sure that, if you do write down their account info or personal information, that you would do yourself a service to make sure that you properly dispose of it and shred it. Okay. Okay. Cool. Opening it up. Any other questions here regarding the senior app that we filled out? Did we learn something? I think a lot of us learned
I
something.
learned a lot.
I think we all learned something regarding like accessing.
Definitely learned a lot.
I think we all definitely learned something regarding like using HP Pro and that we have access to the underwriting manual and information here. That's all really helpful stuff right there. So I'm glad.
I've been an agent. I had no idea about that stuff on HP Pro.
Hey, there we go. Double D, what's up, Daryl?
It was a while ago. I missed it, but can you go back to how you actually on eApp get the application in general? Just like where you go after you like type in the name and stuff. Can you just
Yeah.
so
I'm gonna
you can see
let's go through an example real quick where it's a super combo to help you out. So again, typically when you open up eApp, it's gonna get to this screen. So Daryl, let's say that we're filling out an app for you. All right. So Daryl Davis, male, we'll say January 17th, 1991. You're based out of Cali, so I'm gonna go ahead and select California. I'm gonna click live sale, and then it's
not
important
far
here.
off. I share a birthday with the previous guy, actually, Michael
Oh, okay,
Jordan.
there we go. So important that to answer your question, what I'm not going to do is press next. If I press next, I'm going to go through a bunch of videos. It's not that it's bad, it's just that it's going to take longer. And I have to like skip a bunch of stuff and exit out of a bunch of stuff. If you want to make it easy on you, Daryl, again, on this screen where I put in this info, the next thing I'm going to do is just click this X button. I'm not going to click cancel. I'm going to click the X right here, okay? Then I'm going to go here to File, Application Package Wizard. And there you are right here where I can click on you once, click next, and then click next again. It's going to get me to this screen. And here, if I'm filling out an app for Daryl, he's under 60. I'm going to click add. And here's where I'm going to click on super combo. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to just start filling out the app. So I'm going to start to fill out some of this stuff because I do want to kind of touch on like Head Starts, Child Rider, and GIO real quick. So let's just kind of breeze through this. We're okay. Daryl, you mentioned earlier that you're an Army veteran. You mentioned that you're a part of a VFW. Your last name is Davis, first name Darrell, Darrell. You mentioned that your birthday was January 1st, 1991. Daryl, were you born in California?
Yeah.
Okay. About how tall are you, Daryl?
6'5".
Ooh, okay. Lend me an inch or two. Daryl, just ballpark, about how much do you weigh?
190. About 93 kilograms.
We'll just call it 190. Okay. And then you mentioned earlier you don't use tobacco or anything like that. No marijuana usage either. Okay. Daryl, go ahead with your full driver's license number, and then I'm going to go ahead and get Daryl's driver's license number. Boom. Okay. All right, Daryl. What are you doing for work these days?
Unemployed.
Okay. If he's unemployed, I should not write an insurance policy for him. In fact, American Income likely won't approve him for coverage if I put unemployed, because American Income is going to say, well, he's not making money if he's unemployed. How is he supposed to pay for a policy? So again, if someone's unemployed, technically they're uninsurable. Same thing. If someone is under the age of 60 and retired, that's kind of common. You might run into like a 45-year-old vet that is on VA disability. So he's making, $3,500 a month. He doesn't work at all. I shouldn't put retired in that case. Me personally, what I would do if I run into that 45-year-old vet that's disabled and doesn't work, I'm going to likely put his last employer, or I'll put in his service information. So if I find out that Daryl was supply with Army, I'm going to go ahead and just type in supply or infantry or whatever, and I'm going to put the employer as like Department of Defense, right? And then I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of his information. Okay. So 123 Main Street. They're in San Diego, California, whatever his zip code is there. Oh, whatever your phone number is there, Mr. Daryl, and whatever your email is. Okay. What's up, Jen, while I'm filling this out?
Yeah, so what if they are VA disabled?
Yep. So
They're getting
again,
they're getting a VA check. They
Uh-huh.
don't have a job.
uh-huh,
They're interested in a position with AIL.
uh-huh.
Like, what do you put there?
Like I said, me personally, because if I put retired and they're under the age of 60, American Income Life is going to kick back an underwriting bulletin saying, to confirm that they're disabled and why they're disabled under 60. To kind of circumvent that and make things a little easier, again, me personally, I'm going to either list their last employer, or I'm going to list the military as their employer because they're getting a check through the Veteran Administration still, kind of.
Okay.
Again, that's how I would handle it, Jen.
Okay.
Does that answer and address your question?
Yes.
Yeah, them wanting a future career with American Income, God bless them. Certainly we're going to move forward with that, but I'm not going to put that here because as soon as I put like American Income Life as their employer, one, they're not technically employed here yet, so it's wrong. That's also going to technically be considered a controlled business because them being a insurance agent or representative with any form of Globe Life,
Okay.
they're going to kick it back as controlled business, just as a heads up, even if
Okay,
it's
but
not controlled
they're
business.
not okay, so this was literally a member that was not, I mean, I wrote a policy for them and they're considered 100% disabled through the VA, but I mean, I physically saw this person walk through the house, like no issues whatsoever, right?
Again, sometimes a common thing with especially service-connected veterans, they might have what are known as like invisible scars. They might be disabled due to hearing loss. They might be disabled due to sleep apnea. They might be disabled through VA for, any number of things that you might not see physically affect them, but
Right.
might still affect them. And in some cases, again, I'm all for veterans trying to get every penny that they can through VA. They might not be, severely impaired, but they still deserve some sort of retribution for their service, essentially. So again,
Okay, that makes sense.
yeah. So again, just kind of think of the invisible scars that might be present with them, essentially. That's pretty common, whether it's PTSD or otherwise. Which brings me
Gotcha.
to maybe another point with regarding PTSD. If you list PTSD on an application, it won't get it'll get trialed very, 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 very quickly. PTSD is like a bad word in underwriting. What I would say is PTSD is a form of anxiety. So me personally, if I do run across a veteran that has PTSD, like they're getting a service pay or service connected pay for PTSD, as long as they're not taking like medications that would disqualify them, or like they haven't like had a suicide attempt, they haven't been hospitalized for their PTSD recently, I'm going to call their PTSD anxiety and I'm going to just list it like I would from there. So again, that's kind of one of those invisible scars, maybe, Jen. But again, just make sure to understand our job is to be a fiduciary. It's to put their needs first. Our job is to help them qualify for benefits that they're able to qualify for and to have them like receive coverage for what they're applying. So my job is to fill out the application ethically and honestly, but in the best interest of the client. So again, I personally would list like a PTSD. If it's severe enough, I'm going to list it as PTSD and I would trial the application. But again, if the PTSD is fairly under control, if they haven't been hospitalized due to it, if they're not taking high-end psychotics for it, I'm personally going to list their PTSD as an anxiety condition. and fill out the appropriate information for there. Does that make sense? I hope I didn't open up.
Yes,
there.
absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, cool. All right, so just a couple of quick things here that I want to touch on regarding super combos is just making sure you guys understand the difference between child riders and what would be a child whole life policy. Call them 50 pounds. All right, remember, because I don't have a gender selected here for the kids, it's not going to let me select any form of like child rider or child whole life. But as soon as I select a gender for the child, now it will let me. One important note, you can list up to 9 children on an application. You're always going to want to start where C1 is the oldest child down all the way to the youngest. You're going to see on page 1, C1, 2, and 3, that's for 3 children. Page 3, you're going to see information for C4 through C9. Again, you can list as many as 9 children on the application under 18. And when you do like an A71 family plan or a child rider, it will cover all of them listed as long as they're on the application. So whether they have 9 children or 1 child, it's not going to charge them differently for the child rider or A71. It's a one price for the family essentially. So when I select C right here, and I go down here for the child rider is always going to be 10,000 of coverage, and it's always going to be $6.25 always. I could take the time to fill out 8 more children, and that cost will not change. It'll still be the $6.25. Okay. Now that being said, when it comes to the whole life policy, those are all going to be individuals. So you see here where it says C1, C2, C3. These are individual whole life plans. Or remember when I was using that example that, unfortunately maybe the woman or husband or whatever doesn't qualify, either of them, but they want to set up a benefit for their child. That's going to be right here where I fill out the C1. That's another example where, say, if it is a child that I'm insuring, and only the child, A would be blank. So that's an example where I'm going to have to click other and put in, whoever's the owner of the policy, if it's only the child getting coverage. I kind of want to just open it up for questions and maybe kind of just touch on questionnaires and call it a day, guys. Hope this was helpful, but again, I'll be available for as long as we need here. So if you guys are done, by all means, God bless. Have a good night, guys. I appreciate you taking some time to get better. But anybody that has questions, let's kind of chop it up for a little bit and go from there. Yeah, Jamie, what's up?
Okay, so after you've done the eApp, everything's done, you're getting ready to submit it, all that. The part after, so okay, what's going to happen next that we tell the client? So, they're going to get a call, so-and-so. What is that information?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So let's kind of go back to that other application that I filled out a little bit here so I can maybe do a better example with it. Give me one sec. So a lot of big anxiety here regarding, again, submitting eApp is that there isn't necessarily a script for it, right? So this is kind of learning from your upline how they go about things. Me personally, as I get all this filled out, I'm going to just finish this real quick. Let me click validate and make sure there's no errors. All right. So perfect. I filled out all that. Now, what I'm usually going to do here is after I filled out the banking info, that's the last thing I do. If they're a senior, I don't need to fill out anything else questionnaire-wise. I'm just going to kind of open and close these. All right, now, Jamie, I'm going to go ahead and submit everything here and do my signatures. Now, Jamie, you are going to get a couple of phone verification calls over the next couple of days. That's just going to verify that, again, I did my job and I treated you with respect. So the first call is going to come from my assistant. Her name is Flora. She's just going to verify again, I didn't kick my dog, I didn't call you a jerk, that I treated you with the respect that you deserve, okay? So rat me out if you need to. Ha ha ha, they always get a laugh out of that. Okay, now you're also going to get another call, Jamie, from the medical team with the company. Now they're just going to want to verify that everything on the application is, again, true medically. So again, we didn't lie, we're never going to lie. So make sure you answer their questions honestly and directly, okay? Now, that being said, what'll happen next is that the policy will go through an underwriting period. Typically takes about 6 to 8 weeks. After that's been completed, Jamie, everything that we talked about today is going to get physically sent to you. Now, as soon as we finish your signature here in a second, you're going to get electronic paperwork as well so that you have something until you get it all sent out. All right. So boom, I've done all my signatures. Now I'm going to, again, just kind of continue through this where I'm going to, you know, complete all this. I'm going to exit out of the stuff that I need to. But usually while I'm talking to them is, again, just explaining like I just did with Jamie, that she's going to get a couple of phone calls. The first one from our quality team, just to verify I treated you with kindness and respect. The second phone call is going to come from the medical team. They're just going to want to verify everything that we put on the application is true to the best of our knowledge and belief. So again, we're never going to lie, Jamie. Be sure to answer their questions honestly and directly. Now, the important thing to note here, guys, is some of the rookie agents, before you get to this point, you might be saying, okay, check your email, check your email. Until I click finish right here, the email will not be sent. I can tell them to check their email for an hour. Until I click finish, this email is not going to get sent. As soon as I click finish and okay, boom, almost right away, they're going to get the information emailed to them. So just to show you guys, I'm going to go through the DocuSign with you guys real quick, where it'll always be the same. Give it just a second, it'll come through here, hopefully. It's going to say like, there we go, American Income Life, please DocuSign. All right. So I'm going to go through the DocuSign here, Jamie, just so you can kind of hear this as well. Jamie, you're going to get an email from American Income Life. It'll say, please DocuSign. Go ahead and open up that email. Yellow boxes are your best friend. You're going to see a yellow box that says review documents, okay? Go ahead and click there where it says review documents. The next thing that you're going to see here is it's going to load up. You'll see a checkbox that says agree to electronic signatures. Go ahead and click I agree. You'll then see, again, yellow boxes that are your best friend. One will say continue. The next one will say start. Okay. You should see the application that we filled out together, Jamie. You're going to see a yellow box with an arrow that says sign. Go ahead and click there. It'll ask you to either type in, or if you're on your phone, it'll have you draw in your signature. Go ahead and draw it in as best as you can. It doesn't need to be too pretty, but then go ahead and press adopt and sign. Okay. Now, the next thing you need to do is just clicking either next or sign on that box, and it'll put your signature in there for all of those. Now, after you've done all your signatures there, Jamie, you're going to see a yellow box that says finish light up. Once you press finish, you'll see another box that says no thanks. Again, it won't get sent back to me as the agent until they press finish and then press no thanks, okay? I would recommend practicing DocuSign, kind of what it looks like for this. That way, again, you can guide members through it confidently and correctly. But that being said, I'm not going to finish it here so that I don't send it to the company because I wasn't in training for this. But yeah, does that make sense, Jamie, and answer your questions regarding how we go
Yes.
from completing signatures to signing it off and all that?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
So the next thing is, again, just clicking file, submit sales. And after they've clicked finish and no thanks, you'll see it here on the bottom. It'll say, you know, upload to impact. That's when it gets sent off to the company. That's when I usually say, congrats, Jamie, on submitting your application. Now, again, everything's going to get mailed out to you here over the next few weeks. If you have any questions on it, don't hesitate to reach out and I'm happy to assist you. That being said, be on the lookout for those phone calls. If you don't answer, they'll leave a voicemail. Just be sure to return their call as soon as possible. Now, Jamie, as you go through the underwriting process, they might have a few additional questions or need some information. Again, they'll reach out. If for some reason they're not able to connect, they'll have me reach out on their behalf. Again, this is in your best benefit to get this stuff addressed quickly. So again, please be sure to return my call as soon as you can if you're not available. And same courtesy I'll give you. If you call me, I'll typically get back to you within a 24-hour period. Is that fair? Okay, good. And then boom. You have a good day. Take care. And if you have questions, reach out. Kosher?